So last week, Reverend Jane Simmons was here and introduced us to some of the concepts and the practices from her book, You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening. And for the next several weeks, we're going to dive a little deeper into what some of those practices are and how we can begin to be aware of our default way of seeing to let it open us up to a greater way of being. She invited us to understand that the world mirrors back to us what is really going on in our own psyche. Sometimes that's a little hard to say, yes, that's true, because sometimes what's being mirrored out there, we say, no, I'm not like that. I don't have that a part of me. But it can't be true sometimes. So it is an invitation for us to begin to explore those unconscious and often disowned parts of ourselves, the ones that we have shoved way deep down below our awareness. And usually we do that because we don't think they're acceptable. In fact, when they're being mirrored out there, that's our usual response, that it's not acceptable, it's not okay. What we call that, in today's terms, is the shadow. And we repress those parts so that they're not in our conscious awareness. And then, as by default, unconsciously, we project them back out onto the world, attributing whatever's going on out there to whatever discomfort or hurt or anger that we're feeling in here. Waking up to our shadow beliefs can become a pathway to our own spiritual awakening, because we start to see more clearly that is not who I am. The shadow doesn't necessarily reflect who I am. It's just been a part of my experience, and it's a part of my human tendencies to try and cope with life, especially when we were younger and we didn't know any other way to do it. Maybe I discover that I have a limiting belief that I am inadequate. And whenever something shows up that causes that feeling of inadequacy to arise within me, what she calls pushing your button or triggering you, I can begin to recognize that's not the truth of me. That might be a belief that I took on, but it doesn't reflect the truth that I am a spiritual being. As she said, I am a spiritual being with spiritual business to transact on this physical plane. At the center of my being, of each of us, we are an ever-expanding conscious intelligence with all of the attributes to support that. So this work of awakening is about realizing that very often we're in a dream world. Feels very real, looks very real, but it's an illusion that's happening in and around us. It's that dream world of fear and anxiety, of shame and resentment and unworthiness and inadequacy. And we're waking up to our authentic self. And in order to be able to live from our authentic self, our divine self, we might call it, our Christ self, whatever name you want to attach to it, we must first heal those past hurts that have created those limiting beliefs and that ultimately block the expression of who we are as divine beings. We can start by understanding that we have built into us a negativity bias. It's part of our human evolution that is always on the lookout for dangers. And as she was explaining last week, tends to filter out anything else that isn't a part of what we're on the lookout for. Remember, she talked about those 4 billion bits of information that are available and part of everything, but we can only take in and process 2,000. So this negativity bias says the most important bits that we have to pay attention to are the ones that might put us in danger, are the ones that might harm us. Those are the most important things we have to look at. So imagine this, that you're walking through a forest on a beautiful sunny day, peacefully enjoying all the nature around you, feeling calm, feeling that presence of the energy of life happening all around you. And as you're walking along and you crest a hill, in the distance, all of a sudden you see there's a bear further on down the path. In an instant, our bodies will naturally shut down any thoughts that we were just having about how wonderful and beautiful and calming and peaceful it is to have this stroll in nature. And your amygdala, part of your brain, kicks in. It immediately begins to shut down all non-important organs, flooding our systems with cortisol and adrenaline, focused on equipping us so that we can run as fast as we can or figure out some other way to escape. And when our systems begin to accelerate our breathing and single focus us into that moment, it has to shut down everything else. Things like digestion. We don't have time to digest if we're about to be eaten. We don't need to worry about whether we're gonna, be digesting our food properly, or cell repair, or even things like creative thought shuts down. Have you ever noticed that when all of a sudden something shows up, you can't process it in the same way? All that's there is, I got to get out of here, or I've got to defend myself. And our bodies are set up this way, and it was an important part of our human evolution. We needed it to be able to survive. The problem arises when our response gets triggered by a bear that shows up in the form of your boss, or shows up in the form of the news, or a difficult relationship, or job loss. We may not be in imminent physical danger, but we have the same kinds of responses. We narrowly single focus in on whatever feels like it could be dangerous, because our psyches can't, by default, tell the difference between physical and emotional danger. Think about all the times in your day when this stress response gets turned on. You'll know it when all of a sudden you're flooded with fear or anger or guilt or shame, and suddenly every part of your body, your mind, your awareness is focused on this impending danger. I'll share one example with you. So several years ago, we were having a rehearsal here. I think it was probably for a Christmas program. It was on a Saturday morning, and we were all scheduled to be at the church here by 10 a.m., and I stopped off to get a Starbucks, because, that's what we do when we're on our way to church. We get our Starbucks. And I believed I had plenty of time, based on my experience of going through the line to get here and be here in plenty of time for 10 o'clock. But on this particular day, the line was unusually long, and it was taking forever. I don't know what was going on in front of me, but we were not moving. And I was already in between the concrete blocks, so there was no choosing another option by that point. And the longer I sat there, the angrier I found myself getting. And I was yelling. I was yelling at the cars in front of me. I was like, what are you ordering for an army? Go inside. I had this whole, nobody was hearing me. I didn't yell it out the window. I had my windows up, but I was having a reaction. And by the time I got to church, I was 10 minutes late. Now, here's the interesting thing. It didn't seem to be a big deal for anybody else that I had showed up late. It was part of my state of being and my reaction to it. And it took me a long time to sort of talk myself down off this highly stressed, messy state. This is where breathing can be really important. And I tell people who are in a highly agitated, fearful state, taking a few deep breaths is what helps to regulate that danger flood of chemicals going through you and begin to come back a little bit to center, to the present moment. So later I took some time to get curious about why I was so upset. It's kind of challenging to do it right in the moment, but as I reflected later on, and this was part of, I've been working with the quantum living process for a while, so I asked my heart to show me the earliest memory where because I was feeling very guilty, I was feeling ashamed, and I had a big fear, like, oh, people aren't gonna love me anymore because I'm not showing up on time. This is, again, it's part of my internal makeup. It might be very different for somebody else. And I had an encounter come to my mind with my mom when I was about 4 or 5 years old, where I wanted something. I was in front of her saying, Mom, I want this. And she looked at me and said, other people's needs are more important than your own. And as that 4 or 5-year-old, I took that in. She was my authority. Apparently, other people's needs are more important than my own. And that young belief that I took on, that I'm not important, that I'm selfish, that I'm unlovable, when I put my needs in front of others, opened my awareness to this is something that had been driving me, had been, whenever something like that came up, I single focused. It was my warning system moving into high alert with trying to avoid the pain, the danger of being rejected. I wasn't conscious of this. This was the first time this had come into my awareness, but it had been there accompanying me on many of those reactions that I had when things weren't going in the way that I had planned. And once I was awake to this unconscious belief, I could begin to understand my reaction was not about what was happening in that line. It wasn't even necessarily about what was the reaction of the people who were here, potentially waiting on me. It was about me. And that was the opening, the beginning of the healing process. I could tell that 4 or 5-year-old, that inner child within me, no, that you've misunderstood. You really are important. Your needs are at least as important as anybody else's. And it's okay to be able to ask for and to go after what it is that you need and that will serve you. It was about, and this whole process is really about reclaiming our authentic self. What is true in the long-term reality, not just what's true in the beliefs and the messages that we might have heard from those parental figures, from teachers, from friends, that when we were young and didn't have a way to process it, we just took it to be the gospel truth. And once I was able to do that and work through this healing, it's interesting to watch because it's pretty rare now where I get upset when I'm running late. Every once in a while it creeps in there, but then I go, oh, yeah, that's you again, okay. And some of you may be thinking, well, why do we have to go rehash and dig into what's underneath all of that? We're just supposed to be love and light and live this joy-filled life. And that's true. That's a true statement. But if we have those unconscious limiting beliefs, they will knock us out of that every time there's a danger that pain might be coming as a result of it. When these default patterns are running us, we get stuck on high alert. I want you to hear that. When it's just the default operating within us, we tend, and if you look around in society, you'll see it, and maybe if you look at your own, we tend to run as if there were dangers around every corner. And Reverend Jane writes in her book, the effects of constantly overtaxing the stress response system are significant. In fact, according to the authors of the Healing Code, stress is the culprit behind fully 90% of our illnesses. Scientific studies reported by the Institute of HeartMath confirms that the chronic release of stress hormones is a major contributing factor for the numerous health issues, including accelerated aging, brain cell death, decreased muscle mass, bone density, impaired memory, weakened immune system, reduced skin growth and regeneration, increased blood sugar, and here you go, fat accumulation. Blame it on the stress hormones. When the fight or flight systems are activated, the systems that we have that repair and renew the body are deactivated. So if we're always in stress mode, there's not time for the body to heal, to repair, to rest. One of the quickest practices that can deactivate the stress response and allow our parasympathetic nervous system to function is gratitude. It's nothing new, but it has amazing powers when we practice it. Dr. Joe Dispenza has demonstrated, and I've seen this in their physical measuring capacities, that high-level emotions like gratitude or appreciation or inspiration, there's a whole gamut of those, can cause the heart to emit a measurable energetic field. There's the energy becomes like a cocoon around us, and we then have that available to draw in to our beings, to our bodies, and allow it to heal. And it also wakes up this prefrontal cortex, this reasoning, rational, creative, problem-solving part of our brain, and allows for greater problem, to be able to look at it from a different perspective, to be able to creatively figure out, how am I going to walk through this? Because the event may still be happening out there, but it gives you access to something beyond fear. It gives you access to things that can provide a path that maybe otherwise you would have never even thought about. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move into our meditation time. I know y'all might be just blissfully here, and that's okay. Be in the bliss, but if you find yourself a little stressed out about something that's happening in your life, this is also a great opportunity to see if you can bring that in. And just, at least for a little while, let it rest and let the energy of the heart fill your entire body. So I would invite you just right where you are to get as comfortable as you can in body. Become aware of your breathing, for the breath is always in the present moment. You can't breathe your past, and you can't breathe your future. It is only present in this moment. And as you begin to bring your attention inward and focus it on your heart, on the center of your chest, where not only physically but also energetically, this center of energy that we describe as the heart is located. See if you can bring into this space the thoughts and the feelings of someone or something you deeply appreciate. It could be someone that's in your life right now, or has been a part of your past, or is in the spirit realm. It could be a beloved pet, or a beautiful scene in nature that brings you that sense of being at one with life. just allow that feeling of gratitude to begin to build within your heart as you continue to think and to feel that sense of appreciation for this good that is a part of your life. Conscious of your breath, you can even imagine that now you're breathing in and out of your heart center. Feel the stress of the body begin to melt away. For there is only this moment, and in this moment you are safe. You are whole. You are loved, and you are love itself. Appreciate this space that you're in right now that allows you to become more aware of the good that's unfolding in your life. Begin to look at the good. Put that negativity bias and shift it to a bias for all that is good. The comfort of the place where you live. The family that is a part of your life. The beloved pets that accompany you with unconditional love. The work that you get to do in the world, or the work that you hope to do in the world, that you're striving to do in the world. Give thanks to know that as you are calling it out as good, it begins to mirror itself back to you in your experience. Even see if you can't give thanks for some of the challenges that are showing up right now for you, knowing that they are here to wake you up to what is calling to be healed, to shine the light on those places where you've been unconscious about, and to allow them to be for your good. Just rest in this place for a minute. And if there's something you're really struggling with in this relaxed state, see if you can't call upon that creative understanding of life, a new perspective, a new way of getting resolution. Just sit and wait and offer it to come in to your awareness in this moment. Take another deep breath with me, and as you let that breath go, allow yourself to bring the fullness of this space within you out into this external experience. Begin to be aware of your body once again, and you might even want to just move your hands or your toes just to bring you back fully into this time and space. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So you know, this experience that we all seem to be having in this time in our evolution, when our buttons get pushed, is nothing new. This is not something that has happened in the last 100 years or 1,000 years or millennia. When we look at Paul's letters to the newly forming Christian communities, they are filled with advice in how to handle people that trigger you. In 1 Thessalonians, he writes, He's giving them advice. They're saying, oh, this is happening, and that's happening, and that's happening. He says, be patient with each person, attentive to the individual needs. And be careful, and this is from the Message Bible, so it's a little bit updated language. And be careful that when you get on each other's nerves, you don't snap at each other. Look for the best in each other and always do your best to bring it out. And then he ends with this encouraging statement. He said, and remember to be grateful in all circumstances. Now, Paul didn't understand anything about the amygdala and the stress response and the parasympathetic nervous system and the energy that emits from the heart and all the physiology and psychology that we have now. And yet he witnessed when people were grateful, when they could be in that energy of being grateful in all circumstances, it became the magic key to changing the focus, to changing the inner state, to changing the way people could connect with each other through the power of the heart. So this week, I invite you to create a daily habit of looking for what's working in your life and then be grateful. I want you to shift from, I'm only going to look at what could negatively impact me, and change it over to a different perspective, a different intention of what you're looking for. This creates a shift in our perception from watching for what could go wrong to being on the lookout for the goodness of life with deep appreciation. I was on Facebook, and I don't get on there very often, so please don't think I'm going to see something if you post it, because sometimes it's a month or 2 months, but I happened to be out there yesterday, and I saw this posted. It was on Vic Sorrell's page, who's a friend of mine that lives in Nashville. I'm not sure who the author is, so I'm saying that because I want to give credit to whoever wrote this. But it said this. It says, your nervous system will always choose familiar chaos over unfamiliar peace until you heal and choose differently. Hear that again. Your nervous system will always choose familiar chaos over unfamiliar peace until you heal, allowing you to choose differently. So as we heal and let go of those old and often hidden beliefs, we claim our power, and our experience becomes one of deep, abiding love, as we discover it is our very essence. Well, this is our opportunity to share of our financial good with this community. We are grateful, always grateful for whatever flows in, and grateful to be able to support other parts of our community through our tithes as we are part of that flow of giving and receiving. In just a few moments, the ushers are going to invite you to come up row by row and share your gift in the large basket and then receive, because we always want to be in that flow of giving and receiving, to receive an affirmation to bless you this week. And even if you give electronically, or this is not your Sunday to share, you can bring one of the little cards signifying that, or simply place your hand over the basket and just add your energy of abundance to this flow within Center of Unity. So let us take what we offer today and hold it in our hands or in our hearts as we bless it together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God.
Let's join hands, and we're going to do our peace song. Father,
And so as we go into this day, into this week, grateful for all that is, we go knowing our prayer for protection together, and we'll do call and response. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well.